to full by accidentally joining a cult because I was trying to impress a girl I matched with on Hinge. So this happened about 3 months ago, but I'm only now emotionally stable enough to talk about it. I, 29M, have been riding a pretty gnarly dry spell, both romantically and socially. After a breakup and moving to a new city for work, I didn't really know anyone, and I figured it was time to try online dating again. I matched with this girl. Let's call her Eliza. She was cute, smart, had a master's in psychology, and her profile mentioned she was into esoteric spirituality and communal living. I figured that meant she was into astrology and yoga retreats or whatever. I'm not exactly a crystals and chakras kind of guy, but I was starved for meaningful conversation and human touch, so I was willing to pretend I knew what a rising moon in Pisces meant. We hit it off. Like, really hit it off. Our text convos were long and intense and flowed so easily. We met for coffee after about a week, and she was even better in person, super charismatic, funny, just the right level of mysterious. She kept talking about how our energies were aligned and how she could feel my aura vibrating with purpose. That probably should have been my first red flag, but again, I hadn't felt that level of connection in a long time. After 2 more dates, she invited me to a weekend retreat upstate with some friends from her community. She described it as a grounding, transformative experience with guided meditations, sound baths, and collective healing rituals. I mean, it sounded a little weird, but I thought, why not? Worst case, I get a fun story. Best case, I impress Eliza and maybe get lucky in a yurt. So I pack my bag, hop in her Subaru, of course it was a Subaru, and we drive like 3 hours into the woods. There's no cell service, and the retreat center turns out to be a cluster of hand-built cabins and a central dome that looked like it had been designed by someone who dropped out of architecture school to follow Burning Man full-time. Everyone there was dressed in flowy linen robes and smiled like they knew a secret about the universe that I didn't. I told myself to keep an open mind. At first, it was actually kind of relaxing. We did some breathing exercises, ate this weirdly bland vegan stew, and sang songs around a fire that involved a lot of ohms and ahs. But then things got weird. The next morning, they gathered us in the dome at sunrise. Everyone sat in a circle while this guy named Soul, who looked like Jared Leto if he lived in the forest, stood in the center with a giant conch shell and welcomed us to the shedding. He said we were about to begin a process of ego death and spiritual rebirth, and that we needed to abandon the illusion of self and merge with the cosmic oneness. I glanced at Eliza. She was into it, eyes closed, breathing deeply like she was already halfway to nirvana. They passed around this drink called the nectar. It tasted like dirt and licorice and regret. I later found out it had a very mild psychedelic in it, legal, but barely. Not enough to make you trip, but enough to loosen the edges. Then came the confessions. One by one, people stood up and shared their deepest shame. Like raw, vulnerable stuff. One woman talked about stealing money from her dying grandmother. A guy confessed to cheating on his wife with her sister. I panicked. I didn't have anything on that level, so when it was my turn, I just blurted out that I used to fake sick in 4th grade to stay home and play Pokemon. It did not land the same way. After the confessions, they blindfolded us and led us into the woods barefoot. I wish I was kidding. They said it was to disconnect from societal constructs and reconnect with Gaia. I stubbed my toe twice and stepped in something that was either mud or raccoon poop. Eventually, we were told to kneel in a clearing, still blindfolded. There was drumming, chanting. At one point, someone touched my forehead and whispered, "You are not you. You are we." It honestly felt like I was in a live-action roleplay of Midsummer. I decided then and there that I was done. I didn't care how hot Eliza was or how long it had been since I'd been on a date. I was not built for cult life. I told Eliza I had an emergency and needed to leave. She looked hurt but understanding. Soul gave me a long hug and said, "The path is always open, brother." Which was somehow both comforting and terrifying. But here's where it gets even dumber. I had no cell service, no ride, and we were hours from anywhere. I ended up having to walk almost 5 miles before I got a bar of signal and could call an Uber. which cost me $172. I spent the entire ride home trying to explain to the driver why I was barefoot, covered in dirt, and humming a chant under my breath out of habit. When I got home, I took the longest shower of my life, ordered an entire pizza, and blocked Eliza. 2 weeks later, she messaged me from a different number with just a sunflower emoji and the words, "The door is still open." I threw my phone across the room.
So yeah,
I joined a cult because I wanted to get laid. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. TIFU by accidentally making my girlfriend think I was cheating because of a poorly timed burrito. Let me preface this by saying I'm not the smartest man when it comes to food safety, romance, or basic human communication, apparently. So buckle up, because I have no one to blame but myself for the absolute disaster that unfolded over the last 24 hours. So I've been dating this amazing woman, Sarah, for about 9 months. She's funny, smart, terrifyingly organized, and somehow puts up with me and my unhealthy love for late-night Taco Bell runs. She's also very clean, very health-conscious, and very not into fast food. Now, she recently started working night shifts at the hospital. She's a nurse, so we don't see each other during the week as much as we used to. She gets home around 7 a.m. I'm usually already at work by then. We share a one-bedroom apartment, and for the past week she's been sleeping while I'm at work and vice versa. So anyway, I have this habit of stress eating and work has been absolutely brutal lately. Deadlines, meetings, boss breathing down my neck. You get the picture. So a few days ago, I was up late, like 1:30 a.m. late, and decided to order a burrito from a local Mexican place.
not Taco Bell this time.
I went fancy. It was enormous. It arrived hot, delicious, wrapped in foil like a greasy little present from the heavens. Now here's where I made my first mistake. I only ate half. Not because I was full, but because my stomach was doing that thing where it warns me. Hey buddy, maybe don't eat all of this molten cheese and beef this late at night, or we'll make you regret it. So I obeyed. I carefully wrapped the other half up in the foil, shoved it in the back of the fridge, and went to bed like a responsible adult. Fast forward to the next night. Same deal. I'm up late, working. Remember the burrito? I am stoked. I pull it out, unwrap it, nuke it for about 90 seconds, and dig in. It's weirdly wet, like wetter than I remember. I write this off as a microwave issue. I take a few bites. It tastes fine, maybe a bit sour, but it's 2 a.m. and I'm tired, so my brain's not exactly firing on all cylinders. I finish the burrito. At 5:17 a.m., my stomach turns into a demon. Not like a regular stomach ache. No, this was full-blown gastrointestinal warfare. I ran to the bathroom and basically didn't leave it for the next hour. I'll spare you the details, but imagine your intestines trying to turn themselves inside out. I'm sweating, groaning, praying to whatever gods oversee burrito consumption. It was hell. Now here's the kicker. Sarah comes home early. She walks into the apartment around 6:30 a.m. and hears me in the bathroom, making noises no human should make. She knocks gently on the door. "Are you okay?" "I think I'm dying," I whisper. She immediately turns on nurse mode, gets me water, checks my temp. I'm burning up, asks what I ate. I tell her about the burrito. "When did you order it?" Like Sunday night." She stares at me. "It's Thursday." My eyes widen.
I do some math.
4-day-old burrito. Not refrigerated properly. I basically ingested a war crime. Sarah is understandably horrified. She helps me into bed, gives me some anti-nausea meds, and I pass out around 8 a.m. When I wake up at 11, she's asleep next to me, and all seems well. Except my phone is blown up. Texts from Sarah. Angry ones. "Who the F **** is Bella? Are you cheating on me? Why is there perfume in the bathroom I don't wear? I sit up in bed, heart racing. I have no idea what the hell is going on. I check my phone, scroll back. At around 9:30 a.m., while I was unconscious, Sarah apparently went to clean the apartment. She stress cleans, which is its own brand of cute and terrifying. While putting away laundry, she found a receipt in my jeans pocket. From the Mexican place. The name on the receipt? Bella.
Now.
I swear to God, I didn't even notice the name on the Uber Eats receipt. I didn't look. I just ate the burrito. But apparently the person who delivered it, or maybe the one who placed the order, I genuinely still don't know, was named Bella, and her name was printed on the receipt in big bold letters. Order by Bella. Sarah, running on 3 hours of sleep, finds this mysterious receipt for a late-night meal she didn't eat, sees a woman's name on it, smells some floral perfume in the bathroom, which I later realized came from a new air freshener I bought and forgot to mention, and assumes the absolute worst. Cue nuclear meltdown. I panic. I text her back frantically. Call her. She's dead asleep. I'm pacing the apartment, sweating, still partially from the food poisoning, I'm sure, trying to figure out how to prove that I did not, in fact, cheat on my girlfriend with a burrito-delivering woman named Bella. When she finally wakes up around 4 p.m., I'm waiting with my laptop open to the Uber Eats receipt page, the bottle of Febreze air freshener in hand, and the remaining half of the foil the burrito came in like it's a crime scene exhibit. I go full Ace Ventura. I explain everything. Show her the receipt. Show her the email confirmation with my name on it. Let her smell the Febreze. Even reenact the exact moment I microwaved the burrito. I have never been more serious in my life. Sarah listens. Narrowed eyes. Silent. For an eternity. Then she laughs. So hard she starts crying. I'm sitting there, hollowed out by shame and bacteria, and she's wheezing, bent over muttering, "You almost died because of a burrito, and I thought you were cheating on me with someone named Bella." We hugged. We laughed. She apologized for jumping to conclusions. I apologized for being a reckless food goblin. We ordered sushi that night, together, and she made me promise never to eat anything older than 3 days ever again. I now check every receipt like it's a subpoena. And our bathroom smells like fresh mountain linen instead of seductive jasmine, because apparently names matter more than I realized. TIFU by accidentally getting involved in a family secret feud while house-sitting. So this happened a few months ago, but I'm still reeling from the psychological whiplash of the most awkward and chaotic week of my life. My co-worker, Amanda, asked me if I could house-sit for her while she and her husband took a long-overdue vacation to Costa Rica. She mentioned there'd be minimal responsibilities: check the mail, water a few plants, and feed their old golden retriever, Barney. Easy enough. I agreed, without hesitation. I live alone in a small apartment, and her place was a 2-story suburban dream home with central air and a stocked fridge. A free vacation of my own. The first couple of days were uneventful. Barney and I were vibing. I was watching shows on their huge TV, and I even took a few embarrassing mirror selfies in their gorgeous bathroom. Then, on the 3rd day, things got weird. I was coming back from walking Barney when I noticed a note taped to the front door. It read, "I know she's not here. Tell Dave that he's not fooling anyone. We'll talk soon." At first, I assumed it was some kind of neighborhood drama. I took a photo of it, texted Amanda a heads up, and tossed the note. She didn't respond immediately, which I chalked up to vacation mode. That evening, someone rang the doorbell. A woman was standing there, mid-50s, holding a foil-covered casserole dish. She looked at me like I was the one who'd knocked on her door. "Who are you?" she asked, eyebrows raised. I explained that I was house-sitting for Amanda and Dave. She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Of course they'd get someone else to do their dirty work. She handed me the casserole and said, "Tell your boss I want my damn Tupperware back." Before I could say anything, she turned and left. I stared down at the casserole in my hands. It smelled amazing, like baked ziti or lasagna. I wasn't sure if I should eat it, throw it out, or call a priest. Still no word from Amanda. Next morning, I noticed someone had gone through the mailbox before I could get to it. It was a locked box, but the little stack of junk mail I'd seen the day before was gone. I found the junk mail. Opened. Scattered across the side yard. Credit card offers. A vet bill. A letter from someone named Marie. Barney was sniffing it like it was no big deal. Now I was paranoid. I decided to call Amanda again. Straight to voicemail. I texted her. Hey, are you sure everything's okay? Got another weird note. Mail is being tampered with. Some lady dropped off food? No reply. That night, I double-checked the locks and brought Barney upstairs to sleep in the guest room with me. At around 3:30 a.m., he started growling at the window. I peeked through the blinds and saw a car idling across the street. Headlights off. It just sat there for maybe 5 minutes before pulling away. Now I was in full-on horror movie mode. I slept like garbage. On day 5, someone rang the doorbell again. This time it was a man, maybe early 60s, wearing a leather jacket despite the heat, sunglasses, graying beard. He looked like a background extra from The Sopranos. You must be the dog sitter, he said, smiling in a way that made me deeply uncomfortable. House sitter, I corrected. He nodded slowly.
Sure.
Tell Amanda her brother's done playing nice. The lawyer'll be in touch. And tell Dave to keep his nose out of it, or he'll regret it. He turned and left before I could stammer out anything resembling a coherent sentence. Now, at this point I'm feeling like I accidentally signed up to be the interim manager of a soap opera. I decided to dig a little, because my curiosity had fully overpowered my common sense. I started with the mail. Among the random junk was an envelope from a law firm. It was addressed to Amanda and had been torn open. Inside was a letter about the ongoing estate dispute. It named Amanda, a Mr. Leonard Bishop, same last name, and someone named Marie Kingston as involved parties. Apparently, there was a contested will, accusations of forged signatures, and something about a beachfront property in Maine. Amanda never mentioned any of this. That night, the casserole came back to haunt me. Not food poisoning, worse. A second dish showed up on the doorstep. Different handwriting on the note. You took her lasagna. Take mine too. Equal footing.
What the hell?
Now I was juggling a three-way family war over inheritance, possibly involving mob vibes, and being bribed with baked pasta. Finally, on day 6, Amanda called me. She sounded like she was underwater emotionally. I'm so sorry, she said immediately. I didn't think they'd find out we were gone. I told her everything. Every note. Every confrontation. The casserole wars. She sighed and launched into a story I'm still processing. Turns out Amanda's mom passed away last year and left behind a mess of a will. Amanda's older brother Leonard, who I now realized was Mob Tony from the doorstep, believed Amanda manipulated their mother into giving her a larger share of the estate. Marie, their cousin, believed both of them were liars and filed her own claim. Apparently, the lawyer had been trying to mediate a deal, but the whole thing fell apart when Amanda and Dave went no contact with everyone to de-stress. And they forgot to warn me. She apologized profusely and offered to fly me somewhere when they got back. I declined. I just wanted to go home and live somewhere that didn't come with a side of espionage and parmesan. On the final day, as I was packing up, someone rang the bell again. I opened the door cautiously. No one there. Just a plate of tiramisu and a handwritten note. I don't care what Amanda says. You're doing a great job. Watch out for Leonard. I left the food untouched, locked the door behind me, and haven't seen Amanda outside of work since. We're polite. We nod. But I can't look at her without picturing her family members waging silent war via baked goods. Also, I will never house sit again. TIFU by trying to spice up my relationship with a secret Reddit account and accidentally seducing my girlfriend's dad. So, for context, I've been with my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, for about 3 years. Things are great. We live together, split chores, share a dog, the whole cozy domestic vibe. But recently, I noticed our spark in the bedroom had flickered a bit. Nothing tragic, just less frequent, a little mechanical. We'd both been busy with work, and I thought, hey, maybe I should do something fun, something unexpected, a little anonymous flirtation to remind her I'm still the guy who once bought her flaming hot Cheetos and champagne at 2 a.m. I decided to make a secret Reddit account. My plan was simple: Write a semi-fictional sexy post on a relationship subreddit, describe my girlfriend loosely, leaving out anything too specific, and see if she stumbled on it. Ideally, she'd recognize some of the subtle details, realize it was me, and we'd both laugh and use it as an excuse to start sexting again, maybe even roleplay a little. Worst case, nobody notices. Best case, it's a spicy icebreaker. Right?
Well,
Strap in. So I wrote a post on our /Dirtapemples. I described myself as a mid-30s guy in a committed relationship who was craving a little extra spark. I painted a romantic, slightly edgy picture, someone into teasing, suggestive banter, a bit of taboo fantasy. I described my girlfriend vaguely, smart, sarcastic, into indie horror movies and cinnamon candles. I uploaded a photo, not of me, but a suggestive photo of a hand holding a glass of whiskey by candlelight. Artsy. Mysterious. It got traction. I started getting DMs. Most were pretty tame, some were hilarious, a few were genuinely hot. But one caught my eye, a user with a handle, Candlejack Jones. Their message was clever. Witty. They quoted a line from Hereditary, which, if you know, is an oddly specific favorite of Sarah's. They mentioned whiskey. They talked about how long-term relationships could still have surprise twists. I was 90% sure it was her.
so I leaned in.
We messaged for hours over a couple of days. It was fun, genuinely thrilling. We kept it classy at first, funny, coy, but eventually it escalated. We didn't exchange pictures, but the descriptions got intense. Like, let's just say I now know that Sarah has a thing for light choking and quoting horror movies mid-foreplay. Weird, but whatever. I was into it. Plus, I was killing it. I was witty. Mysterious. I was seducing my girlfriend through the internet, and she didn't even know. Or so I thought. About a week in, Candlejack Jones asked to meet. Not like, let's hook up, but more of a I think I know who you are, and if I'm right, you owe me a drink and probably an explanation. At this point, I was 100% convinced it was Sarah messing with me back. The idea that she might have sniffed me out and flipped the game on me? Hot. So I agreed. We set a time and place, Saturday, 5 p.m., the little bar near our place that does overpriced charcuterie and smells like expensive soap. I figured I'd show up, see her waiting there with that smug little smile, and we'd laugh and probably sneak into the bathroom for a quickie. Classic rom-com ending. But when I got there, it wasn't Sarah. It was her dad. Her actual father. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe he was there for a different reason. But no. As soon as he saw me, he froze. His face went completely pale. He was holding a whiskey, my drink. He was sitting in the seat I had described in one of the messages. He had a notebook. A black moleskine notebook. We both just stared at each other for a solid 10 seconds, and I swear to God, I could feel every horny message I had sent that week combusting inside my skull like fireworks made of shame.
He spoke first.
He said, "Your candle glass?" My Reddit handle. I think I actually blacked out for a second, because I said yes, even though my soul was screaming, "Lie, you moron." Long story short, he had also been trying to spice things up in his marriage, Sarah's mom, who I now can't look in the eyes. He saw my post, thought the details were a coincidence. He liked my writing, thought it would be a harmless escape. He figured out who I was 3 days ago and had been hoping I hadn't figured it out yet. That meetup? His version of a ceasefire. Or whatever the internet version of a gentleman's duel is. We both sat there for like 15 minutes in the most painful silence of my life. I think he tried to make a joke about whiskey being a family weakness. I laughed. I hate myself for laughing. Afterward, I went home and immediately told Sarah everything. I couldn't live with the weight. She stared at me like I had just told her I was secretly her brother. There was this long pause, and then she said, "Wait, my dad was sexting you." She laughed. A lot. Then cried. Then laughed again. Then said she needed a walk. It's been 2 days. Things are tense. Her dad and I have a silent agreement to never speak of this again. Her mom thinks we got into a weird political argument. The worst part? Sarah keeps teasing me by calling me Candleglass whenever I try to initiate anything. And last night, She asked if I wanted to watch Hereditary. I said no. I may never watch it again. Or drink whiskey. Or look at candles. Or Reddit. TIFU by pretending to be an Uber driver to impress a girl and accidentally kidnapping her grandmother. This happened about a year ago, but the psychological trauma is still fresh and occasionally wakes me up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat. So, for context, I, 24M at the time, had just moved into a new apartment complex and was trying to make friends in the area. I started chatting with this girl, Kelly, at the gym. She was gorgeous, funny, and had this sarcastic edge that made me try extra hard to seem cool. One day, she casually mentioned how she had been waiting for her Uber for almost 20 minutes because the app kept glitching. Like an idiot, I joked, "Well, if you ever need a personal Uber, I'm your guy." She laughed and we exchanged numbers. Later that week, she texted me, "Hey, any chance I can cash in on that Uber offer? I need a ride to my grandma's place." Now, I should have just picked her up like a normal person and driven her. But something in me decided this was the perfect opportunity for a little flair. I downloaded the Uber driver app a while ago, long story, tried to drive once, never followed through. So I cleaned my car, made a fake dashboard sign with the Uber logo, even found an old air freshener and wore a baseball cap to look the part. I texted her, "Your Uber is en route." She replied with a laughing emoji and a pin drop. I picked her up, did a stupid little "Hello, Kelly? Your ride is here," and she got in laughing. Everything was going smoothly. I had a playlist going, offered her bottled water from a cooler. Yes, I went that far. And we joked the whole 25-minute ride. She said her grandma had just gotten out of the hospital and might need a quick trip to the pharmacy later, but otherwise, she'd just be hanging out with her and catching up. We pulled up to a modest house in the suburbs, and as she was getting out, she turned and said, "You know, this was actually really fun. I might ask you to Uber me back later." "Anytime," I said, trying to sound casual, even though I was blushing like a moron. She walked up the driveway, waved goodbye, and I started driving off. 10 minutes later, she texts me, "Hey, I left my phone charger in your car. Mind dropping it off real quick?" "No problem." I turned around, pulled into the driveway again, and walked up to the porch. I knocked, holding her charger like a peace offering. Now, here's where things spiral. The door opens, and an older woman, late 70s, tiny, wearing a flowery robe and massive glasses, is staring at me.
Hi.
"I'm Kelly's friend." She left her. "She's not here." The woman cuts me off. "Wait, what?" I blink. "She just got here. I dropped her off like 10 minutes ago." "No, you didn't," the old woman says firmly. "I've been sitting by the front window. No one's come in or out." I peer inside. It looks like no one's home except her. No sign of Kelly. Now I'm starting to panic a little. I check my phone. No new texts. I ask, "Are you her grandmother?" "Yes," she says slowly. "Who are you?" I try to explain that I'm her ride, that I just dropped her off, that she walked to the door. The grandmother looks more confused than ever. Then, after a pause, she says, "Do you think you might have taken her to the wrong house?" Cue full-blown internal crisis. I run back to the car, heart hammering, and call Kelly. No answer. I text. No response. Then I check the address she originally dropped. It was a pin location, not a typed-out address. And that's when it hits me. I took her to the wrong damn house. I zoom out on the map. Turns out there's another identical street named 2 neighborhoods over, and that's where her actual grandma lives. So now Kelly is at a stranger's house. A complete stranger. I start driving like my life depends on it, ignoring every speed limit known to man. 5 minutes in, she calls me. Her voice is shaky. "Where are you?" "I'm so sorry," I blurt out. "I took you to the wrong house. Are you okay?" I knocked and no one answered, she says, but the door was open a crack, so I went in. I thought maybe she was napping.
Dear God. Kelly.
"You broke into someone's house." "I didn't break in. The door was— Wait, what?" Her voice changes. "Oh my God. You mean this isn't my grandma's house?" I hear a loud male voice in the background. Someone yelling. Then she screams, "I gotta go."
Click.
Now I am full-blown freaking out. I break every traffic law getting there. I pull into the driveway of the correct house and see a man, presumably the homeowner, standing outside with Kelly, who looks like she just ran a marathon. I get out, hands up like I'm surrendering. "I'm so sorry," I babble. "It's my fault. I thought this was her grandma's house. I'm the ride, I messed up, please don't call the cops." The guy, mid-40s, tank top, looks like he bench presses Buicks, glares at me. Kelly jumps in to explain, half laughing, half horrified. To his credit, the guy calms down. Turns out he'd just gotten out of the shower, heard someone in his house, and found Kelly wandering around calling out, "Grandma?" He didn't press charges, thank God, but made it very clear we were never to return. I took Kelly to the correct house after that, apologizing the entire way. She didn't say much. I handed her the charger. She muttered thanks, and that was it. She never texted me again. And I deleted the Uber driver app the next day. Lesson learned. Never fake being an Uber driver. And maybe check the actual address next time you're trying to impress someone. TIFU by sending my boss an accidental love letter that wasn't meant for her, while trying to save my job during layoffs. So this happened about 2 months ago, and I'm just now beginning to recover from the embarrassment. I'm a 29-year-old software engineer working at a mid-sized tech company. We were going through a wave of layoffs, and I was doing everything I could to stay on the safe list. Showing up early, volunteering for crap no one wanted to touch, making coffee runs like I was an intern again, anything to make myself more valuable and visible. At the same time, I'd been dating someone new for a few months, Emma. She's a graphic designer I met through a mutual friend, and she's funny, smart, and way out of my league. We just had a really great weekend together, and I wanted to send her something sweet during my Monday morning lull to let her know how much I appreciated her. So I wrote her a short but kind of poetic email. Nothing too dramatic, but just sincere. Emotional. I told her how she made me feel calmer, more confident, and how grateful I was that she was in my life during a stressful time. I even ended it with "love you, always," because I was feeling brave and we'd been kind of tiptoeing around the L word. I hit send, smiled, and went back to working on a ticket that had been open way too long. 2 minutes later, I noticed a notification pop up. It was from my boss. The subject line was just. Confused, I opened the email. It was my message to Emma. Only it wasn't Emma's name at the top of the recipient list. It was my boss's. Let me explain how this happened. Both Emma and my boss, her name's Eliza, have first names that start with E. In my Outlook, I'd recently emailed Emma from my work email because I'd forgotten my phone at home one day and needed to coordinate dinner plans. Outlook remembered that and auto-filled the to field as soon as I typed E. I guess I hit enter without noticing it had selected Eliza instead of Emma. I didn't double-check it before I hit send because why would I? I thought I was sending a quick love note to my girlfriend, not a heartfelt confession of affection to the woman in charge of deciding who keeps their job. Panic set in instantly. I got that full body chill like I'd just stepped into a freezer. I stared at the screen, reread the message, reread her reply, question mark, and literally said out loud, "No, no, 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 no." For reference, Eliza is in her early 40s, very professional, and intimidating in the way that makes you triple-check your Slack messages before hitting send. She has never once cracked a joke that didn't sound like it was from an HBR article. She's sharp, direct, and not someone you accidentally tell you love her always, while singing her praises about how much she calms you in a storm of stress. It was basically a work email-shaped love letter, and I had just dumped it into the worst possible inbox. So what did I do? I immediately panicked and did the worst thing imaginable. I tried to play it off as a joke. I replied back, "LOL, sorry Eliza. That was meant for my girlfriend." Monday morning multitasking fail grinning face with sweat. To which she responded, "Understood. Please double check your recipients in the future." No emojis. No smile. Just HR speak for you're one bad email away from being fired. I sat there for the rest of the day wondering how badly I'd just hurt my chances of surviving the layoffs. Was she flattered? Disgusted? Laughing at me in a Slack thread somewhere? I kept imagining her reading it out loud in a meeting. And here we have James, who wants us to know he loves us always and feels calm in our presence. That night, I called Emma and explained everything. Thankfully, she thought it was hilarious and even started signing her messages, "Your calming storm presence." She helped me laugh about it, which is probably the only reason I didn't spontaneously combust the next day. Now here's the worst part. A week later, our team had a one-on-one meeting with Eliza. We were supposed to discuss our current tasks and how we were adapting to the new workload. When it was my turn, she asked a few pointed questions about my projects, then paused and said, "I hope you're feeling calm, James." I died. My face went full tomato red. She didn't even smile, just said it and moved on. I couldn't tell if it was a jab, a joke, or if she just genuinely has no emotional register. Either way, it haunts me. Good news, I didn't get laid off. Bad news, I am now 99% sure my boss thinks I'm either secretly in love with her or a total idiot. Or both. I've since created a new rule for myself. No sending personal messages from my work email, ever. I don't care if my phone is in a river and my apartment's on fire. I'll just send smoke signals to Emma before I ever type a sweet message into Outlook again. To this day, I still flinch every time I type in E in the recipient field. Love you always, but not you, Eliza. Never you. TIFU by taking my girlfriend to my family's harmless Secret Santa party. So this happened just before Christmas last year, but the emotional aftermath lasted way into the new year. I, 27M, had been dating my girlfriend, Jess, 26F, for a little over a year. Things were going well, and we were getting to the point where we were talking about moving in together. Naturally, I thought it would be a good idea to invite her to my family's annual Secret Santa party. It's a big deal in my family, something we've been doing since I was a kid, and now that all the cousins are grown, it's become this half-wholesome, half-rowdy event with booze, food, and chaotic gift exchanges. I warned her that my family is a little weird, but I really undersold it. Let me explain the Secret Santa tradition. The gifts aren't normal. They fall into 3 categories: totally useless, mildly offensive, or creatively cursed. Think things like a snow globe filled with baked beans, or a framed photo of my uncle photoshopped into the Last Supper. Some people go all out. Last year, someone gifted a taxidermy squirrel dressed like Napoleon. We don't tell new people about the weird twist because it's supposed to be a surprise. My family thinks it's hilarious to initiate people this way. So I bring Jess, tell her to bring a $20 gift, and don't explain the theme because I think it'll be a funny surprise and she has a great sense of humor. Or so I thought. We show up, everyone's buzzing, and Jess is being super charming. She's getting along great with my cousins and even helps my mom in the kitchen. Everything is golden. Then the gift exchange starts. Jess brought a lovely, normal gift, a cozy candle set with a nice mug and hot cocoa. Thoughtful, aesthetic, the kind of thing you'd get at Target and feel good about. It goes first. My cousin Anna opens it and thanks the mystery gifter with a smirk, clearly clocking that this is a newbie gift. Next gift, a bottle of hot dog water. Not even fake. Someone boiled hot dogs and bottled the water, paired with a book titled How to Speak to Ghosts. Jess laughs, but it's a little strained. Then my uncle opens a box that looks like it contains a really nice Bluetooth speaker, but when he opens it, it's a rock wrapped in duct tape with a USB cable jammed into it. My cousin shouts, "It plays Stone Age beats." My whole family loses it. At this point, Jess leans in and whispers, "Wait, is this a joke theme?" I tell her, yeah, kind of.
It's just a silly family thing.
She nods, but I can see she's trying to recalibrate. Then things go downhill. Jess's turn to pick. She unwraps a disturbingly realistic baby doll, modified to look like it aged 90 years. It has a tiny walker and a hearing aid. Its eyes are those creepy ones that blink, but one is stuck halfway. The tag says Benjamin Button's retirement years. She tries to laugh, but it's clear she's unsettled. The room is roaring. Someone shouts, "Welcome to the family." Jess gives a weak smile and sets it down like it might bite her. Then comes the moment that sealed my doom. My cousin Dave, known agent of chaos, opens his gift. It's a large, gift-wrap box. He peels it open dramatically to reveal a very realistic, extremely graphic rubber model of a human butt. I don't mean a novelty whoopee cushion. This thing looked like it was commissioned for a medical training video or an underground film. Attached to it, taped with painter's tape, is a note that says, "Please spank responsibly." My dad nearly drops his wine laughing. Someone shrieks, "Oh my God." And she just stares at it like someone just brought a demon into the room. Then Dave, God bless his impulsive soul, says, "Well, we gotta test it out," and slaps it with a cartoonish whap. The whole room cheers. Jess gets up and says she needs some air. I follow her outside, and she's pacing on the porch. I start apologizing, saying I should have warned her, but she just puts up a hand and says, "Is your entire family like this?" I try to play it off. "Yeah, they're kind of eccentric, but harmless." She gives me a look like I just told her I enjoy recreational arson. You thought this would be a fun introduction? A rubber ass and hot dog water? I messed up. Big time. We go back in for appearances, but she's withdrawn. After we leave, the car ride is silent for like 15 minutes before she says, "I honestly don't know if I can ever unsee that baby doll." The worst part? My mom loved Jess and kept asking if she'd be coming again next year. I dodged the question. Over the next few weeks, Jess started pulling away. I'd ask her if she wanted to hang out and she'd say she was tired or busy with work. Eventually, she admitted that she felt weird about my family. Not just the gift thing, but that I didn't warn her. She felt like the joke was on her, and in a way, it kind of was. We broke up in January. So yeah, I lost a girlfriend because I let my cousin Dave slap a fake rubber butt in front of her without proper context. Looking back, I get it. I wouldn't want to marry into this nonsense without at least a 5-year prep course and a therapist on call. Anyway, I'm still going to the Secret Santa party this year. But I'll be attending solo. And bringing something classy, like a haunted Furby or maybe a framed photo of Jess photoshopped into the Mona Lisa. To fill by thinking I could impress my girlfriend's dad by pretending to be a grill master. So this happened a few months ago, but I'm only now beginning to find it funny. My girlfriend, now ex, you'll see why, invited me to her dad's birthday barbecue. I'd been dating her for about 8 months at that point and hadn't met most of her family yet. Her dad is this intimidating ex-Navy guy who runs his own construction business, hunts elk for fun, and once broke up with a girlfriend because she salted his steak before tasting it. I'm a 27-year-old software engineer who weighs about as much as a healthy golden retriever and whose idea of outdoor activity is walking from the Uber to the brewery patio. Still, I was determined to make a good impression. I even did research. I watched videos on how to grill steak perfectly. I read about different woods for smoking, learned what the Maillard reaction was, and even practiced on my tiny apartment balcony grill for a few weekends. I was ready. In my mind, I'd be the charming, competent boyfriend who helped cook up the perfect steaks and won the approval of the dad. We arrive at the barbecue, and it's in full swing. I'm introduced to a dozen uncles, cousins, family friends, all men with necks thicker than my waist and names like Big Rick and Cooter. The grill setup is monstrous. I'm talking about a custom-built steel beast the size of a small car, with temperature gauges and a smoker chamber and a rotisserie attachment. The kind of thing that roars when you open it like it's alive. Her dad, let's call him Frank, is flipping burgers with one hand and sipping a beer with the other. I decide this is my moment. Need a hand on the grill? I ask, trying to sound casual. Frank eyes me. I suddenly feel like I'm back in middle school asking to sit at the cool kids' lunch table. You grill much? He asks. Oh yeah, I lie. All the time. He nods and steps aside, motioning to the steaks marinating on the table. All right then, let's see what you got. Now, what I should have done was grill 1 or 2 steaks, casually, slowly, and then bow out gracefully. But no. I decide to go all in. I throw on 6 thick ribeyes and start working like I'm Gordon Ramsay on a Hell's Kitchen finale. I'm poking, flipping, searing, and talking myself up the entire time. Yeah, I like a reverse sear, I say, as if I even really know what that means. I pretend to check internal temps with my thumb like I saw in a video, even though I can't tell a rare from a well done if my life depended on it. The problem begins about 10 minutes in, when I realize the grill temp is higher than I expected. Like, way higher. My steaks are burning on the outside and raw on the inside. In a panic, I crank open all the vents to try to drop the temperature, which actually does the opposite because oxygen is fuel. Flames start licking up the sides of the steaks. Smoke is pouring out. Frank strolls over and just silently hands me a beer. He doesn't say anything, which is somehow worse than yelling. Now I'm sweating. The meat is charred like lava rocks, and when I nervously slice into one to check doneness, it's bright purple in the middle. Not pink. Purple. I try to act like this is intentional. These are Pittsburgh rare, I say, referencing a term I read online where the outside is charred and inside is rare. Frank says nothing. I try to salvage it. I turn down the heat. I try to move the steaks to indirect heat. But in doing so, I drop one directly into the coals. It hisses like a demon being baptized.
People are watching now.
My girlfriend looks horrified. A little kid asks, "Why is the grill on fire?" Smoke is everywhere. I try to grab the fallen steak with tongs, but I accidentally knock another one off the grill. It hits the ground with a wet slap. At this point, it's a full disaster. Frank gently takes the tongs from my hand like he's disarming a drunk with a katana. He mutters something to himself and starts trying to salvage what's left. I try to help by grabbing a bottle of water to pour on the grill to control the flames. Rookie move. The water hits the hot coals and causes a giant cloud of ash and smoke to billow up like a mushroom cloud. It coats everything, including the remaining steaks, with a fine gray powder. One of the uncles coughs and mutters, "Jesus Christ," under his breath. I offer to go inside and help with drinks instead. Inside, I try to redeem myself by mixing up some cocktails. I make a round of whiskey sours. People drink them, but someone asks why it tastes like soap. Turns out I used dish soap instead of simple syrup because I poured it from a generic squeeze bottle by the sink. Several people start spitting into napkins. A baby starts crying. I go hide in the bathroom. After 10 minutes of shame-induced self-isolation, I sneak out to find my girlfriend. She's sitting with her dad. They both look up at me with the exact same expression, a blend of amusement and quiet judgment. Frank claps me on the back and says, "Stick to computers, son." We broke up 2 weeks later. Not just because of the barbecue fiasco, but I'm sure it didn't help. Apparently, her family still refers to me as Grillpocalypse. Moral of the story: never pretend to be something you're not at a Navy vet's backyard barbecue. They will see through you. The steaks will betray you. And your shame will be seared into the meat of family lore forever. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. TIFU by pretending to be a dog trainer to impress a girl and accidentally starting a neighborhood dog cult. So this happened about 6 months ago, but the fallout still haunts me. I, 28 am, in most areas of my life, a relatively sane and honest guy. But I have one massive character flaw. I will say anything to impress a pretty woman. I don't even mean in a sleazy way. I mean in a full-blown pathological liar way that usually blows up in my face, and yet I keep doing it like a moth to a bonfire. So there's this girl, Sarah. She moves into the apartment 2 floors above me. She's got this beautiful golden retriever named Miso, and I'm out on the balcony one day watering my extremely dead succulents when I see her struggling to get Miso to stop chewing on her welcome mat. I try to act casual and say something stupid like, "Oh, he's just teething on your hospitality." She laughs, and I take this as a green light to initiate my usual bull. She mentions how Miso's obedience classes aren't working. Without thinking, I say, "Oh, I'm actually a professional dog trainer. Maybe I can help." Note: I have never trained a dog in my life. I once owned a dachshund named Pickles who ran away and lived with the neighbors for 3 years without me noticing. But Sarah lights up, says, "Really? That would be amazing." And boom, I'm now a dog trainer. The next day, she brings Miso down for a session. I panic Google how to train a dog and land on some YouTube video by a guy named Brandon who seems like he knows what he's doing. I paired his methods with an excessive amount of confidence.
Sit. Stay.
Positive reinforcement. Miso sits and stays, probably because he's a golden retriever and not because I did anything right. Sarah is amazed. Next day, she tells her friend, whose German Shepherd doesn't listen to anyone. That dog comes over. I barely managed to get him to sit by bribing him with deli turkey. But again, everyone is impressed. Word spreads. Within 2 weeks, I've got a waiting list of dogs from the building and neighboring blocks. I panic create a fake website called Sit Happens and print out business cards using my work printer. I'm charging $50 a session now. I should have stopped there. But it gets worse. I decide to run a group training session in a local park to maximize my earnings. 10 dogs, 10 owners. I wear aviators and a backwards cap to look alpha. My plan is to have them do synchronized sit-and stays, then run a little obstacle course I built out of broomsticks and traffic cones. I blow a whistle like I know what it's for. It's a disaster from minute one. One chihuahua immediately attacks a husky. A poodle eats part of the obstacle course. A beagle just runs off entirely. I lose control so quickly that I shout, "Let them express themselves. This is part of the training." But the owners, all of whom are watching me like I'm the Caesar Milan of our zip code, nod like I'm a genius. So now I have a regular class. Every Saturday. And the weird thing is, the dogs do start behaving. I think it's because they're getting socialized and tired, not because of my methods, but the owners credit me. People start using words like pack leader and energy balance. Someone brings me a thank you pie. Sarah is loving it. We start dating.
Miso adores me.
I'm living a lie, but the lie is petting me and wagging its tail, so I don't stop. Then one day, everything implodes. This guy named Kevin shows up with his Doberman, Zeke. Kevin is a real dog trainer. Like certified. Like he actually trains K9 units for a living. He watches my class for about 5 minutes before pulling me aside and asking what certification I hold. I panic and say the Canadian Association of Behavioral Sciences and Obedience, which is not a real thing but sounds legitimate enough to confuse him. He squints and says, "That doesn't exist." Then Sarah, who's there watching, says, "Wait, I thought you trained military dogs overseas?" I had forgotten that lie. I told her in week 2 that I was stationed in Germany training border security hounds because I thought it sounded rugged and mysterious. Kevin starts asking more questions. I start sweating. Dogs are now barking uncontrollably because I've stopped directing the class. A corgi is humping a stroller. Someone's toddler is crying. Kevin tells everyone that I'm a fraud and should be reported. I panic and run. Like literally run. I sprint across the park like I'm being chased by bees. Miso thinks it's a game and chases me. 5 other dogs follow. One of the owners shouts, "Follow the pack leader," and now I'm being chased by humans and dogs. Someone starts live streaming it. I end up tripping over a frisbee and face planting into a bush. Miso licks my face. The fallout? Oh, it was nuclear. Sarah dumped me on the spot, obviously. I was banned from the park. My fake website was reported and taken down. People in the building started referring to me as Paul McFraud. Someone even printed out my business card and taped it to the elevator with the word liar written in Sharpie across it. But the worst part? Some of the dog owners, especially the weird crystal-wearing lady from 3B, still think I was some kind of misunderstood guru. She's now running the group sessions herself and calls them Canine Ascension Circles. Apparently, her pug had a spiritual awakening during one of my classes and now only pees facing east. So yeah, I'm now the unwilling founder of what may be the first apartment-based dog cult. And I still can't get my succulents to survive. TIFU by pretending to know sign language to impress a girl and accidentally getting hired as an interpreter. So this happened about 2 weeks ago, and the shame still haunts me in quiet moments. I, 26M, work at a mid-sized tech company in the city. A couple of months ago, I started noticing this new girl in the building cafeteria during lunch breaks. Let's call her Ava. She's easily the most effortlessly cool person I've ever seen. Combat boots, oversized band tees, messy bun, the works. She had this energy like she'd been to protests, owned vinyl, and probably rescued animals in her spare time. Anyway, I'd been awkwardly admiring her from afar, like the absolute coward I am. Then one day I'm behind her in line for coffee, and she's signing with someone. Like full-on fluent American Sign Language. I didn't hear the conversation because, well, it was silent. But I watched her hands moving rapidly and her face lighting up and thought, okay, that's it. She's perfect. And then the dumbest part of my brain kicked in. The part that thought, you took 2 semesters of ASL in college, you've got this. Spoiler, I did not have this. So the next day, I see her again, and I muster up all the courage in my fragile little body, walk over to her table where she's sitting alone, and I sign, hi. My name is Alex. I'm learning sign. Only I'm like 95% sure I accidentally signed, hi. My name is Bathroom. I like book fire. Ava stares at me for a second, blinking. Then she slowly signs back something I don't understand at all. At that point, I should have laughed, apologized, and bailed. But I doubled down. I nodded, smiled, gave a thumbs up. She raised an eyebrow and said aloud, "You sign?" And I said, "Yeah." Not fluent, but I'm getting there.
God.
The lies. So we start talking, with her mostly speaking and me nodding and throwing in random signs like I'm playing charades drunk. Turns out she's not deaf but CODA, child of deaf adults, and volunteers as an interpreter at a local arts nonprofit. She seemed genuinely excited that I was learning and invited me to come to an open mic event that weekend. Said they always need more interpreters, even learners, and it would be a good opportunity to get involved. Now a normal person would have made an excuse. Said, "That's awesome, but I'm still learning. I'll just watch." But I was so high on her attention I heard myself say, "I'd love to help." So Saturday rolls around, and I show up to this cozy little performance venue. The place is half full, fairy lights everywhere, people snapping instead of clapping. I find Ava, and before I can even ask what I'm supposed to do, she waves over this woman named Karen, who's the coordinator. Karen says, "Oh, great. Ava said you were fluent. Our regular interpreter had to cancel last minute. Can you do the poetry set?" At this point, I'm panicking. My internal monologue is just one long scream. But externally, I smile and say, "Sure thing." Fast forward 15 minutes, and I'm standing on stage in front of an actual audience, next to a mic stand, pretending like I know what I'm doing. The poet steps up. Some guy in a poncho with a notebook and way too much intensity. He starts reciting this piece about heartbreak and rain and trauma and wolves, I think. Honestly, I blacked out a little. And I start signing. Except I don't know how to say trauma or betrayal or emotional carnage in ASL. So I start making things up, like pantomiming tears with exaggerated face movements. Clawing at my chest like I'm in an opera. At one point, I just start doing the sign for sad over and over, like a broken NPC. I can feel people staring. Not in a good way. One deaf woman in the front row actually stands up and starts signing something furiously at me, and I just nod like an idiot and throw in the sign for love, because I panicked. Ava runs up, whispers, "Are you okay?" And I just go, "I think I might be having a stroke." She pulls me off stage gently, and Karen replaces me with someone who actually knows what they're doing. I sit in the back in shame, trying to melt into the chair. After the event, Ava comes over and says, "Hey, I didn't know you were that new to ASL." I confess. Everything. I tell her about the 2 college classes, the crush, the stupid decision to pretend I was fluent. She stares at me for a long second. Then she laughs. Like really laughs. Not in a mean way, but in a what the hell is wrong with you kind of way. She says, "Your lucky deaf culture is super forgiving." I offer to leave forever. She says, "No, but you are signing up for lessons. With a real instructor. And volunteering for real this time." So now every Thursday I go to beginner ASL classes with a group of 10-year-olds and a retired dentist. And I've officially been banned from interpreting anything ever again until I pass a fluency test. Ava still talks to me. We're even grabbing coffee next week. But I don't think I'll ever live down the night I accidentally mimed an emotional breakdown in front of the entire deaf community just to impress a girl. TIFU by accidentally starting a neighborhood-wide raccoon war and becoming their unwitting king. Let me preface this by saying I live in a fairly quiet suburban neighborhood. You know the kind. Families grilling on weekends, people waving from their front porches, HOA newsletters nobody reads, that whole deal. Nothing exciting ever happens here. That all changed because of one damn sandwich. It all started 3 weeks ago on a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home late from work, and I was starving. I made a monster sandwich. I'm talking turkey, bacon, Swiss, lettuce, tomato, sriracha mayo, the works, and right as I was about to bite into it, my dog Max gives me that look. You know, the I need to pee now or I'm going to redecorate your rug look. So, like any responsible dog dad, I set the sandwich down on the porch table and took him out to the yard. We were gone for maybe 5 minutes. 5. When I came back, my sandwich was gone. Plate knocked over, chair tipped back, little paw prints on the table. At first I thought it was Max being a sneaky little gremlin, but he was on a leash the whole time. Then I heard it, a rustling in the bushes followed by the unmistakable sound of a raccoon chittering like it just won the lottery. I didn't think much of it. Annoyed? Sure. But I figured it was a one-time thing. I mean, I live near some woods, raccoons happen, whatever. I made a new sandwich and moved on with my life. Except the raccoon didn't. The next night, he came back. I caught him red-pawed on the porch, sniffing around the same table. He looked at me dead in the eyes, no fear, like I was the one intruding. I clapped, shouted, waved my arms like an idiot, but he just waddled away slowly like he was doing me a favor. By night 3, he brought friends. Now I had 3 raccoons showing up like they had a dinner reservation. They circled the porch, scouted the perimeter, and even tried to open the garbage bin with terrifying coordination. I realized I may have started something I couldn't finish. In a moment of frustration, and I recognize how monumentally stupid this was, I tossed a slice of leftover pizza onto the lawn to distract them while I took the trash inside. Big mistake. They came back every night. And more of them started showing up. Then 6, then 8. It was like a raccoon block party. Word must have spread through the raccoon grapevine that some soft suburban idiot was handing out free gourmet scraps. I tried everything. Locking the garbage, motion sensor lights, raccoon repellents from Amazon that smelled like regret and citronella. Nothing worked. One night, I got drunk and decided to try and talk to them. Don't ask me why. I sat on the porch with a beer in hand and told the lead raccoon, who I had named Randall, that this couldn't continue. Randall didn't respond. He just stared. Deeply. Soulfully. Then he sat down. And the others sat too. That's when I made the worst decision yet. I tossed Randall the marshmallow. He took it gently, ate it, looked back at me with what I can only describe as approval. The other raccoons inched closer. I threw out more marshmallows. One climbed onto my lap. Another tried to groom my hair. I should have been terrified, but I was 3 beers in and felt like Snow White if she had unresolved trauma and questionable boundaries. This became a nightly ritual. I bought a bag of marshmallows every 2 days. My porch became a meeting ground. Neighbors began to notice. People would pass by and see me sitting among a horde of raccoons like some deranged forest deity. I told them they were harmless. I was wrong. About a week into this madness, I heard screaming from next door. My neighbor Ted had left his garage open, and the raccoons saw it as an invitation. They got into his deep freezer and made off with half a lasagna and what I can only assume was a Costco-sized pack of Hot Pockets. Ted was livid. He came to my door and said something along the lines of, "Your trash pandas declared war on my property." I tried to reason with him. I said, "They're not mine, Ted. They're wild animals." To which he responded, "They follow you around like you're their messiah." He wasn't wrong. They'd begun following me when I walked Max. I'd look behind me and see a conga line of raccoons trotting along the sidewalk. Some neighbors started filming me. One clip of me walking with Max and 6 raccoons got uploaded to a local Facebook group and went viral. Suddenly, I was the raccoon king of Maple Drive. Then came the HOA meeting. Now, I've never actually been invited to one of these things before, but this time my presence was strongly encouraged. They sat me down and essentially begged me to stop feeding the raccoons. I tried to explain that I hadn't fed them in days, and they still came. I even showed them bite marks on my screen door where they tried to let themselves in. That didn't help my case. One woman asked if I'd considered relocating them, like I was running some kind of fuzzy gang I could evict. Another man suggested calling animal control. I countered that with, "Have you ever tried to round up 15 raccoons? They coordinate. They have tactics." That night, I didn't put out any food. I turned off the porch light. I even played a YouTube loop of wolf howls hoping it would scare them off. Instead, they retaliated. At 3:12 a.m., my house was under siege. They climbed onto the roof and started knocking things over. They tipped over my grill. They pooped in my bird bath. I swear one of them stole my Wi-Fi extender. I had to call in a professional wildlife removal guy who looked at the scene like he'd just walked into a war zone. He said, "You made them dependent. Now, they're angry." Long story short, after a very expensive and humiliating process that involved traps, humane deterrence, and one mildly aggressive opossum who got caught in the crossfire, the raccoons have mostly stopped coming. Mostly. Randall still shows up sometimes. He sits at the edge of my yard, just watching, judging, waiting. And every now and then, when I take Max out late at night, I hear a rustle in the bushes and see those familiar beady eyes. I nod. He nods. And we both pretend we weren't once friends torn apart by a sandwich and an entire suburban uprising. To full by lying about knowing how to sail and ending up in international waters with my boss's yacht and her very angry cat. So this happened last summer, but I'm only now able to laugh about it. At the time, I genuinely thought I was going to be arrested, killed, or eaten by a cat. Possibly all three. It started with a lie. A dumb, tiny, stupid lie. I was working as an assistant to this very eccentric, very rich woman, let's call her Victoria, who ran a boutique marketing firm. She loved 3 things: money, prestige, and her Persian cat, Tofu. This cat had its own bedroom. I'm not even kidding. Victoria also owned a gorgeous 42-foot sailing yacht named Wind Dancer, docked at a private marina. One Friday afternoon, she was talking to some client over the phone about taking the yacht out for the weekend, but lamenting that her usual skipper was in Greece for a regatta. Hearing this and not thinking more than a few seconds ahead, blurted out, "Oh, I know how to sail."
Lie.
A total, baseless, ego-inflated lie. The closest I'd ever been to sailing was playing Assassin's Creed 4. But Victoria's eyes lit up and she said, "Wonderful. You'll skipper us to Montauk this weekend. Bring a bag. We leave tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp." Cue panic. I spent that night in a rabbit hole of YouTube tutorials, sailing blogs, and subreddits trying to cram a few basic skills into my brain. I even downloaded a sailing simulator and tried to practice docking. It was like preparing to perform surgery because you once played Operation as a kid. Saturday morning, I show up at the marina wearing boat shoes I bought 2 hours earlier. Victoria is there, in a ridiculous sun hat, holding Tofu in a Gucci carrier like she's boarding the Titanic. She gives me a coffee and says, "Let's get going, Captain." So I do what any responsible fake skipper would do. I wing it. The engine starts. We leave the marina at a snail's pace, and for the first 20 minutes, it's kind of okay. The weather is nice, the sea is calm, and the autopilot does a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm sweating bullets, but Victoria is sipping champagne and playing with her cat, not paying me much attention. Then she wants to sail, like really sail. "Let's put the sails up, feel the wind," she says. I don't know how to do that. I vaguely remember how from the videos, but not enough to actually execute it. I start fumbling with ropes and winches like they're alien technology. Somehow, miraculously, the mainsail goes up, catches the wind, and we start moving. I'm thinking, okay, this isn't so bad. Maybe I'm a natural. That thought dies fast. first, I realize we're heading way off course. Like, we're supposed to be heading east-northeast, but the wind is taking us way more south. I try adjusting the sails, but I end up jamming something and tearing a small section near the top. The sail luffs violently, and Victoria spills her champagne. Is that supposed to happen? She asks. Yes, I lie again. It's called dynamic wind correction. Then TIFU starts freaking out. The cat does not like the sudden jolt or the flapping noise. It starts hissing and scrambling around the deck, knocks over Victoria's handbag, sending her phone overboard, and then disappears below deck. While trying to manage the sails and apologize for the phone, I lose track of the wind direction. The boom swings across violently and clocks me in the head. I hit the deck, seeing stars, and when I get back up, we're now fully turned south and heading straight into open water. At this point, I confess. Okay, I may have exaggerated how much I know about sailing. Victoria stares at me, mouth agape. What does that mean? It means I watched some YouTube videos last night, and I thought I could wing it. I'm so sorry. She does not take this well. She goes full corporate fury, screaming at me while trying to steer. But she clearly doesn't know how to sail either. Meanwhile, the cat has somehow opened a cabinet and is throwing up from stress and motion sickness all over the master bed. With no cell service, no radio knowledge, and no working GPS because someone forgot to plug in the inverter, we are now officially lost at sea. Victoria threatens to fire me, sue me, feed me to her cat. I believe all of it. Several hours pass. I finally figure out how to use the emergency radio and send out a mayday, not because we're sinking, but because I'm terrified we're going to drift into international waters and get picked up by drug traffickers or pirates. The Coast Guard finds us at sunset, 20 nautical miles off course. They tow us back. One of the officers asks how we ended up so far off. Victoria says nothing, just glares at me like I burned down her house. The following Monday, I get summoned to her office. I expect to be fired on the spot. Instead, she calmly pours herself a drink, looks at me, and says, "You're either the dumbest person I've ever met or the most persuasive." I'll take that as not fired? I ask. Not fired, she replies. But don't ever touch my boat again. Or my cat.
Fair.
Tofu, for the record, now hates me. I once tried to pet him during a Zoom meeting, and he lunged at the screen. That cat does not forgive.
So yeah.
Tofu by lying about knowing how to sail and ending up almost dead, unemployed, and mauled by a $7,000 cat. Don't lie, kids. Especially not to wealthy, yacht-owning cat ladies. Tofu by accidentally live-streaming my in-laws' anniversary party to my OnlyFans. So this happened a few months ago, but I've only just recovered enough secondhand embarrassment to tell the tale. I, 29M, work in tech, mostly remote, and like many terminally online people during lockdown, I started an OnlyFans as a joke. At first. Then it started bringing in some actual money, and over time, it turned into a strange side hustle. Nothing super explicit, just weird niche stuff like me reading spreadsheets shirtless, or sexy software engineer answers your database questions. You'd be surprised what people will pay for. Anyway, my wife, 27F, and I have been married for a little over a year now, and her family is incredibly tight-knit. Very big on family traditions, events, parties, you get the vibe. Her parents were celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary and invited the whole extended family to this huge backyard party. There was a catering tent, a rented stage, speakers, the works. Being the son-in-law and techie guy, I was unofficially assigned as the AV coordinator. The plan was simple. I'd set up a few cameras and a mic to stream the anniversary party for the relatives who couldn't attend in person. I set everything up early in the day, ran a few tests on my laptop, and got it all working smoothly through a streaming site I often use for work Zoom calls and the occasional YouTube tutorial. My laptop was connected to an external webcam and mic, and I even set up a wireless mic for the toast. Here's where I messed up. I forgot that earlier in the week, I had used the exact same streaming setup, same webcam, same mic, same laptop for a cheeky little of live stream. Just me, reading JavaScript code dramatically while shirtless in a cowboy hat. Don't ask. I had OBS, Open broadcaster software, installed to manage the stream and overlays, and I'd customized a bunch of hotkeys and automation. One hotkey, Control plus F12, started streaming to MyEv. Another, Control plus F11, streamed to YouTube. Guess which one I hit at the party?
Yeah.
So there I am, a proud son-in-law, wearing khakis and a tucked-in button-down, standing behind the laptop, double-checking everything. I hit Control plus F12, thinking I'm streaming to YouTube, smile to myself as the red, live light pops up on OBS, and walk away to join the party. I don't notice anything is wrong for a full 40 minutes. That's 40 minutes of heartfelt speeches, little nieces dancing around, my wife hugging her grandma, a cake cutting, and me, periodically walking into frame, adjusting the camera, smiling like an idiot, all broadcast live to my OnlyFans subscribers. I only found out when my phone buzzed on the picnic table with a message from a friend who subscribed to MyEv as a joke and was watching it unfold in real time.
Bro.
What the F*** are you doing? Are you okay? Is this a kink thing? Confused and already 2 beers in, I open the message, then open the app, and there it is.
Live.
Streaming. My sweet, innocent in-laws' anniversary party. Tagged automatically with live. Nerdy Dom throws suburban garden party? My stomach drops. I sprint back to the laptop like a man possessed, nearly take out a toddler with a balloon sword, and fumble to kill the stream. I accidentally pause the stream instead. Then resume it. Then finally shut it down completely. I turn around and realize several family members are staring at me. One of my wife's uncles is holding a sausage in midair, frozen, like he just watched someone confess to a felony. My wife is walking over, sensing something's off. I try to play it cool. I say the stream glitched out, and I need to restart later. But the damage is done. Within an hour, I start getting tips. Tips. From MyEv followers. They think it's performance art. That I've gone full Andy Kaufman. Some people think the whole thing was scripted. One person messaged me saying it was the most raw and vulnerable thing they've ever seen. I'm horrified. The worst part? I had to tell my wife. I couldn't risk her hearing it from someone else, especially since one of her cousins is internet savvy enough that it was only a matter of time. So I sit her down after the party and explain, as delicately as I can, that her parents' anniversary became an accidental pay-per-view event for a niche corner of the internet. She stared at me in complete silence for a solid 10 seconds before saying, "This is somehow dumber than the time you broke our microwave trying to dry socks." Then she laughed. A lot. She eventually told her parents, who, bless their kind, Midwestern hearts, did not understand what it was, and we kept it that way. We just said there was a streaming mix-up and moved on. Though I did hear her grandma ask someone if OnlyFriends was like Facebook. Since then, I've triple-checked every streaming setup I've ever done. I also removed all hotkeys from OBS and made a separate user profile on my laptop for anything remotely adult-related. And I learned that my fans will absolutely tip to watch someone awkwardly carry folding chairs in cargo shorts while sipping Coors Light. The internet is weird. To faux by trying to surprise my girlfriend and accidentally joining a cult. So this happened about 2 months ago, but it's still haunting me, and my friends won't let me live it down. My girlfriend, now ex, but not because of this, I'll get to that, had been dropping hints that I wasn't spontaneous enough. We'd been together for almost 3 years, and things were getting a bit routine. I'm a planner. I like Google Calendars, reminders, schedules. She's the opposite. She thrives on chaos. Think let's fly to Berlin tomorrow kind of energy. Anyway, she made some comment about how I never surprise her. So I decided, screw it, I'll surprise her. She'd mentioned this yoga retreat she saw an ad for. Something spiritual and earthy, with nature and self-discovery, held at some eco-lodge in the mountains about 2 hours from where we live. I secretly booked us 2 spots. I thought I was being sweet. The day comes, and I tell her to pack a bag for 3 days. She's excited, I'm excited. We drive up, beautiful scenery, her trying to guess where we're going every 5 minutes. When we arrive, it's this rustic-looking set of cabins, wooden signs with inspirational quotes, wind chimes, the works. At check-in, the staff is intense. Too friendly. like step forward wives level smiles. We get shown to our shared cabin. No locks, no phones allowed, they had a tech-free rule, and no mirrors either, which I thought was weird.
But she was into it.
Said it was pure. First day was okay. A lot of yoga and vegan food, which is fine but bland. People were a little off. Everyone was dressed in the same neutral-colored linen clothes. One guy came up to us and said he used to be trapped in the cycle, but was now awake. I assumed he meant he used to be in corporate or something. Second day, things got weirder. They woke us up at 4:30 a.m. with soft drumming and humming. We were led, half asleep, to a field where everyone sat in a giant circle, chanting phrases in a language I didn't recognize. My girlfriend was still into it, thinking it was some deep spiritual thing. I was skeptical, but I played along. I didn't want to ruin the trip. Then, the leader appears. He's this tall, bald guy named Oren, wearing white robes and a necklace made of teeth. Literal teeth. Asked someone about it, and they whispered they're metaphorical. Whatever the hell that means. Oren gives this long monologue about shedding false identities and becoming one with the true path. At the end, he gestures to a giant tapestry hanging from the trees. It's a crudely drawn triangle with an eye in the middle, surrounded by flames. Oren calls it the flame of knowing. Everyone bows. I'm getting serious cult vibes now. I try to joke about it to my girlfriend, whispering this is how Netflix documentaries start, but she's shushing me, eyes wide like she's genuinely moved. That night, we had a cleansing ceremony, which involved walking through a maze blindfolded while people whispered our true names. I got lost and tripped over someone who was sobbing into a bowl of goat's milk.
Third day, I'm done.
I tell her we should go, and she flips out. Says I'm closed off and always ruining things. We argue. I storm off and find one of the staff members, saying I want to leave. She says I need to speak to Oren before releasing my energy.
What?
I'm escorted to a cabin where Oren is sitting cross-legged like he's expecting me. He says, "You are not ready to leave. You have not been completed." I say, "Nah, man. I'm good and complete." He stares at me for a full minute, then says, "You carry deep disruption." I say, "Well, yeah, I got IBS." He doesn't laugh. At this point, I realize I might actually be stuck here. I leave, go back to the cabin, and start packing. My girlfriend returns, furious, says I'm embarrassing her. I say, "This place is a cult." She says, "It's not a cult, it's a community." I say, "So is Jonestown." Eventually, I bribe one of the maintenance guys, shout out to Carl, with the rest of our snacks and $40 to let me use his phone. I call an Uber, but since we're in the middle of nowhere, it takes 2 hours to arrive. I try to get my girlfriend to come with me, but she says she's staying for the awakening. I leave alone. 2 weeks later, she shows up at my apartment, wearing the same linen clothes and talking like she's in a trance. She says she's been recalibrated. I say I'm happy for her, but I'm out. She leaves peacefully. A few days after that, I get a letter in the mail, a letter like in the 1800s, with a wax seal. Inside is a note that says, "You are always welcome when your eyes open."
Oh.
No return address. Just the triangle and eye symbol. I googled the name of the retreat. Nothing. Website gone. Instagram account deleted. Like they vanished. I'm still not entirely sure what the hell happened. But sometimes, I swear I see people wearing those same linen clothes around town. They never say anything. Just nod. Like they know me.
So yeah.
TIFU by trying to surprise my girlfriend and accidentally joining a cult. TIFU by pretending to be an exchange student for an entire semester. So this happened a few years ago during my sophomore year of college, and to this day it remains one of the most ridiculous, drawn-out lies I've ever gotten myself into. I've told a few close friends, but I've never written it all out before. Strap in. I had just transferred to a large university from a tiny community college. I didn't know anyone and had no idea how to get involved. The school had this massive club fair, so I went just to walk around and maybe get a free t-shirt. While wandering through the chaos, I stopped by the language and culture table because they had a bowl of candy. Some super enthusiastic girl with a clipboard started talking to me before I could make a clean getaway.
She asked what country I was from.
Now, I could have just said, "Oh, I'm from here, just checking out the club." But instead, I panicked and said, "I'm from Belgium." I have no idea why. I had never even been to Belgium. I think I had seen a documentary about Bruges like a week before, and that was the first European country that popped into my head. Also, I thought it would be a 15-second interaction, and then I'd leave with a Jolly Rancher and never see her again. She lit up instantly. "Oh my God, are you an exchange student?" At this point, it was already a little weird to backpedal. My socially awkward brain decided to roll with it. "Yes, I'm here for the year," I said, channeling the most neutral fake accent I could muster. She introduced herself as Natalie, the president of the International Students Club. She gave me a hug. I was too stunned to do anything but awkwardly pat her shoulder. Before I knew it, I was signed up for the club's WhatsApp group, invited to a welcome dinner, and promised a Belgium night to share my culture. That's when I realized I had made a huge mistake. But I didn't back out. I went to the dinner. I kept the accent. I even Googled Belgian college culture and memorized facts about Leuven, a university town I pretended to be from. I said my major was media studies, which I figured was vague enough not to raise questions. I read Wikipedia pages about Belgian holidays, regional differences between Flanders and Wallonia, and lied about missing my dog and family back home. People were surprisingly fascinated. And I guess because I was new and foreign and made an effort to be friendly, I'm usually pretty introverted, I became weirdly popular. By week 3, I was helping plan International Student Night, where everyone brings food from their home country. I made fries and brought mayo. Someone else brought waffles. A girl from Sweden started flirting with me because I reminded her of a guy she dated in Amsterdam. I didn't correct her. I just nodded sagely and said, yes, Dutch and Flemish have similarities. But then things started to spiral. First, my roommate found out. I hadn't told him I was doing this because I didn't think it would go on so long. He walked in one day while I was on a Zoom call with the club and caught me doing the accent. "What the hell was that?" he asked after they logged off. I explained everything. To his eternal credit, he didn't rat me out. In fact, he thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He started calling me Jean-Claude around the apartment and made me Belgian flag pancakes once. But he warned me, "This is going to explode in your face." He was right. Mid-semester, I got invited to speak on a panel of international students at a high school downtown. There were teachers, students, parents, the whole thing was live-streamed. I begged the club to let someone else go, but they said the school specifically requested the Belgian guy because he was so charismatic. So there I was, on a stage, answering questions like, "What's something people misunderstand about Belgium?" and "What was the biggest cultural shock for you in America?" I said, "The way Americans treat cheese. In Belgium, it's more sacred." My roommate watched the live stream while holding back laughter and texting me, "You're going to hell." Then came Belgium night. The club had ordered decorations. There were posters of Brussels. Someone even made a PowerPoint about famous Belgians. They asked me to give a 15-minute talk about growing up in Belgium and what it was like to move to the US. I spent 3 nights writing a fake speech. I talked about childhood summers in the Ardennes and my favorite neighborhood bakery in Leuven and how I used to bike to school past cows. Everyone loved it. They clapped. Someone cried. And then, right as I thought I might actually pull this off, disaster struck. A real Belgian student transferred into the university. His name was Mathies. He was from Ghent, and he joined the International Students Club. The moment I met him, I knew I was screwed. He introduced himself in fluent Dutch to me. I panicked and responded in fake broken English. He switched to English, smiling, but his eyes were suspicious. "Which part of Belgium are you from?" Just outside of Leuven." "Really? What town?" "Small one. You wouldn't know it." "What's it called?"
Air.
"Wavre." That's when he raised his eyebrows.
Ah.
"French-speaking area, then." I nodded too enthusiastically. "But you said you were Flemish, no?" I mumbled something about being bilingual. He smiled tightly and walked away. He definitely knew something was up. A week later, Natalie pulled me aside before a meeting. She looked concerned. Hey, I just wanted to ask, are you actually from Belgium? Apparently, Matthias had talked to her. He had gently pointed out that I had no discernible Belgian accent, didn't know key holidays, and pronounced Leuven like an American. I confessed. All of it. I expected her to freak out or kick me out. Instead, she just stared at me for a long time and said, "Why didn't you just join as yourself?" I didn't have a good answer. I told her I was lonely, new, and made a dumb joke that snowballed. She sighed and told me I had to come clean to the club or leave. So at the next meeting, I stood in front of 30 people, took a deep breath, and said, I have a confession. I'm not Belgian. I'm from New Jersey. There was silence. Then someone whispered, what the actual F********? A couple people laughed. A few were pissed. One guy thought it was performance art. Natalie gave me a slow clap, which I did not appreciate. I left the club. I still saw some of them around campus. It was awkward, but eventually they moved on. A few even said it was the most interesting thing that had happened in the club in years. I never did anything like that again. But sometimes I think about the high school kids watching that live stream, believing in the sanctity of Belgian cheese, and I laugh. I hope they still do. TIFU by trying to spice up my marriage and accidentally getting arrested in a Chuck E. Cheese costume.
So yeah.
This happened a few weeks ago, and I'm just now mentally ready to talk about it. I, 38M, have been married to my wife, 36F, for about 12 years. We've got 2 kids, jobs that make us tired all the time, and the kind of routine that makes you Google things like how to feel alive again. I love my wife, and I know she loves me, but we were in a bit of a rut. Intimacy was rare, and when it happened, it felt more like a maintenance task than something fun. Cue me browsing Reddit late one night and stumbling into a thread about couples doing spontaneous things to bring the spark back. There was one guy who wrote about showing up to his wife's office in a costume and pretending to be someone else. She thought it was hilarious. They ended up in the supply closet, and now they're planning a second honeymoon. My brain latched onto that like a raccoon finding a glittery keychain. I wanted to do something different, memorable, borderline stupid, but in a romantic way, you know? My wife works at a small pediatric dental office. She loves her job, the kids adore her, and they sometimes do themed days where the staff wear costumes. She had told me a week before that next Friday was cartoon day, and they'd all be dressing up. My plan was born. So, I rent a Chuck E. Cheese mascot costume from a shady costume warehouse 2 towns over. Don't ask me why I chose that. Maybe nostalgia, maybe madness. The guy who handed it to me out of the back of a windowless van for real said it hadn't been cleaned in a while, but I figured I'd Febreze it and suffer through. The idea was to show up at her office, do a silly dance, surprise her, maybe whisper something cheeky through the mask, and then whisk her away for a hotel lunch I had booked nearby. Except literally everything went wrong. First, the costume was hot. Like Bikram yoga in the Sahara hot. I was sweating before I even got out of the car. Second, the visibility was awful. I could see through a tiny mesh slit in the mouth, and peripheral vision was non-existent. I walked into the dental office like a heat-stroked animatronic from hell, bumping into a potted plant and knocking over a brochure stand. The receptionist screamed. Like, full-throated scream. I tried to wave my oversized mouse hands to calm her down, but she was already halfway to locking herself in the supply room. The dentist came out, saw me, and instinctively grabbed a tray of dental tools like he was ready to joust. I was trying to explain, it's me. It's just me, through the mask, but it came out muffled and demonic. Then the kids started crying. There were at least 6 kids in the waiting room, 2 of whom immediately burst into tears at the sight of a sweaty, stumbling, possibly possessed Chuck E. Cheese crashing through their safe tooth-cleaning haven. One of them kicked me in the shin. I yelped and tripped backward into a chair, which I knocked over onto a kid's juice box, which exploded across the tile floor like a crime scene. Then the police showed up. Apparently, someone, probably the receptionist, had hit the panic button. 2 officers burst in while I was on my knees trying to take the head off the costume, to prove I wasn't a threat. I couldn't get the latch undone fast enough, so to them, it looked like a giant rodent had just assaulted several children, was possibly intoxicated, and was now resisting arrest. They tossed me. Yeah. They ing tossed me. Imagine getting tossed through 3 layers of foam and sweat while inside a mouse costume that smells like unwashed regret. I convulsed and hit the floor with a sad squeak from the costume's built-in sound device. One officer muttered, "What the hell is this?" while the other finally managed to rip the head off me. I gasped and said, "Please call Emily. She's my wife. She works here," and promptly passed out. I woke up in the back of an ambulance with an EMT checking my vitals and shaking his head like he was debating changing careers. Thankfully, once my wife confirmed I wasn't some rodent-themed terrorist and explained the deeply flawed, romantic intent, the cops agreed not to press charges. But only after they spent 15 minutes laughing in the hallway. They let me off with a warning for public disturbance and reckless behavior in a professional environment, whatever that means. I think they made that one up just to mess with me. My wife. I don't even know how to describe her face when she came to see me in the ambulance. It was like 80% horror, 10% pity, and 10% trying not to laugh. She was mortified but also said, it was kind of sweet, in a completely insane way. The dental office didn't fire her, but she had to deal with a week of jokes about dating the Chuck E. Cheese criminal. We did end up using that hotel lunch booking, though I had to sit on a towel because of the taser bruises. And yes, it was actually a really great lunch. Lesson learned. Don't take romantic advice from Reddit without a safety net and maybe a background check on your costume vendor. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.